Hello, the doc is in, and welcome back to another chapter of JuJutsu Kaisen, chapter 190. In the last chapter, we have Hakari and Kashimo's fight coming off to a blast. In the very end, we have Kashimo, it seems, creating a gigantic explosion in the ocean as Hakari's timer for his immortality comes to a close. And to open up this chapter, let's see who died, if anybody died, who took damage. Is the fight continuing on for another chapter? Kind of getting tired of the fight continuing. I think it's kind of come to its end at this point, so hopefully someone's dead. All right. So in the beginning of the chapter, we have rain and what I can only assume is blood drops coming out from sky after the explosion. It was underwater, mind you, so it's like raining kind of. And we have the water falling and everything, and we have Panda with a chibi body now. He looks like a child. You can liken it to him in his flashback / metaphor scene thing with his siblings, and that's kind of what he looks like at this point. And so as he's kind of like looking at seeing the giant explosion, seeing like the rain come down, he sees an arm on the ground, someone's severed arm, no body. So somebody definitely took some damage here. And so we see one person come out of the water, and it's a bandaged hand because that's my boy Kashimo. The goon survives, and he's out, and he says he used up all his curse energy in that explosion, but at least Hakari's defeated. But psych, you thought. And Hakari comes out, one arm, and punches Kashimo in the face. And he's just like, hey. And honestly, that's the swagger of a black teen. I'm just saying. It explained that basically what happened with that explosion is that Kashimo released all his cursed energy into the water. And mind you, his cursed energy is like lightning. So he released all his cursed energy that he was holding back while trying to not have it siphoned out of him in the water. He just released all of it at once, which caused a giant steam explosion. But the reason why Hakari survived that and only lost his arm is because he assumed that Kashimo was going to try to destroy his arms, that then he wouldn't be able to open another domain, because the next domain he was going to open would be a probability chance version, which basically means he's going to have a guaranteed jackpot. And so obviously I imagine Kashimo was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to have enough in me to try to like beat him at that point. So he was just going to go try to destroy Hakari's arm. But Hakari, to his credit, he predicted that Kashimo was going to try and destroy his arm to stop him from opening his domain, and so he created an impromptu binding vow to sacrifice his arm and use the curse energy that he would use to defend his arm and still put on the rest of his body so that then he would take no damage. Because what you'll notice is that when he comes out of the water, he's pretty clean. Outside of his arm, he looks like he took no damage whatsoever from that entire explosion. And so because of that, he still has cursed energy while Kashimo has none, and so then he basically has won the fight. And so with that, Kashimo's like, well, I guess I die now. And Hakari's like, what are you, crazy? You have 100 points. I'm gonna need those. And he's like, well, I suppose that's true. And we then have Hakari pointing out that, hey, I don't even think I won this fight, because the entire time we were fighting, you didn't even use your curse technique, which a lot of people kind of assumed, including myself, he kind of never did anything that implied he was using his cursed technique. It only seemed like he was using his cursed energy, in which Kashimo does confirm, yeah, I wasn't using my cursed technique the entire time. But the reason why he says he didn't use his cursed technique is because he was saving it because it's a single-use cursed technique. Not quite sure what that means. And he was saving it to use against Sukuna, because his whole point of being here is strictly to fight Sukuna and beat him, but strictly to fight Sukuna, not necessarily win, because he's not going to. So with that being revealed, Hakari then says, all right, well, I'm not going to kill you, and I need those 100 points, so let's make a deal. And then we kind of skip ahead, and we have Panda showing up, and he's like, oh snap, Hakari, blah, 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 blah. They talk a little bit, but we don't actually see the deal they made, but we can assume it goes, based on the conversation that happens a little bit afterwards, is that Hakari basically says, in exchange for letting you fight Sukuna, you're going to help us out and use your points to satisfy our goals and whatnot. And presumably Kashimo, after losing this fight and everything, he's kind of like, all right, is what it is. Seems like they know who Sukuna is. Then he said, and he's obviously offering to let him fight Sukuna. So it's like, you know, it just works in my favor. Already lost this fight, might as well agree. And so there we go. Now, I'm not sure if that's a binding vow, because Kashimo could totally just betray them once he gets his cursed energy back. But I assume, in some sense, he's like kind of bound to this, or at least he has honor in it, and he's just gonna stick to the rules. And so Hakari kind of explains this to Panda. He kind of just says, oh yeah, I'll just let him fight Sukuna. It'll work for us. Or like be teammates with us, whatever. And Panda's like, what? No. And Hakari's like, well, Sukuna's my kohai, so he'll do what I tell him. And I'm just like, what? And Kashimo's also like, what? Because, mind you, he's never met Sukuna. He never seen Sukuna a day in his life. All right? He only knows about Sukuna because of Kenjaku, who hyped him up and was like, hey, if you really want to throw hands with the best of them, Sukuna, now he's the best of them. I'm not going to lie. And so he's just like, Sukuna's a kohai. Kohai meaning like an underclassman. So like you say a senior and a junior. A kohai in that situation would be the junior to the senior. There you go. And so we move on from that little discussion or whatever, and we have the rule about people being able to trade points being mentioned, which suggests that this fight happens right around the time I believe Itadori is able to get Higuruma to make the rule. And so with that, we have Hakari with no arm finding Charles again. Charles is alive. I kind of assumed he was alive. I don't really think Hakari would kill Charles. Charles seemed pretty chill. And so they have them having a little bit of banter. Charles is like, what happened to your arm? He's like, don't worry about it. It'll be fixed later, which I assume just means he's going to have it fixed by maybe a certain Yuta, or really anybody with reverse curse technique. And so they talk a little bit, and basically Hakari's like, you're joining my team too, is the essence of the conversation. It's basically just, hey, stop being depressed, you're joining my team. And so to kind of cheer Charles up, because he's strictly manga and manga alone, he's like, hey, you know what, what's the name of your manga? I'll buy it and give it a look. And Charles is like, I haven't even released a Takabon yet. I got nothing. He's like, and Hakari's like, you won any awards or anything? He's like, no. And then Hakari proceeds to step on him. But while this is happening, Momo shows up. Momo being the girl from the other school who has like the witch broom or whatever. She got like a little shawl on or something. But anyway, her design's not particularly changed. We'll see some people with some change design in just a second. But she shows up, and you have Charles being like a fangirl. He's like, oh my god, a magical girl. This guy's like a complete weeb nerd. But she comes in, and she's basically like, alright, so here's the explanation. And for anybody who's previously confused, we had a full explanation of like, what's going on in Culling Games, what are we doing? So we got the 4 rules we're trying to add. We got the transfer points, which is done. We have the substitution of players, so getting another player to take another player's spot, which is for Megami's sister, I can't remember her name at this very moment. Then we have creating communication between people outside and inside the colonies. And then lastly, being able to exit and enter colonies at will. Those are the 4 rules, with only 1 being done. And so Momo's basically like, hey, we can skip number 3 because it's not necessary at the moment. And Hakari brings up the point, he's like, well, don't we need number 3 so that then 4 works and whatnot? And so Momo then explains like, oh, hey, Maki can enter and exit freely anyway. And we can use Ui, which is Mei's brother, to solve the communication issue. So it should be fine. And Hakari asks a question. He's like, how does Maki get in and out of the barracks? Because mind you, previously, prior to Maki, you know, having her sister die and becoming, you know, like Toji without any curse energy whatsoever, she still had like some like very small amounts of curse energy. So he's like, well, how can she leave in and out freely? And Momo's explanation is just she's become, and there's a ... And Hakari's like, a what? And it's like, a monster. We get to this panel. She has her sword, her sister's last weapon, and she going crazy with it. We see a bunch of cursed spirits in the background just slaughtered, and we have her just getting through it. She just blasts through a tunnel, and we have her crossing up with Noritoshi Kamo. Not Noritoshi Kamo as in Kinjaku, Noritoshi Kamo as in Sister School Event, the guy whose eyes is always closed with the blood manipulation curse technique. And so we find him, and he also has a very different design. He kind of looks like, I just always say like a Hakari from Avengers or something. And he has shorter hair now and everything. I think his design it's not great, but it's not bad either. I'd say it's like a solid average design. And so they meet up, and basically they're kind of like complimenting each other. It's like, Noritoshi's like, dang, you're different now. Like, you seem stronger, but, seem different. And he says about himself, he's like, oh, well, I've fallen behind or whatever. I used to be heading up to be the clan head of the Kamo clan, but now I've been set aside. So now, this is my life now. And Maki gives him a little bit of praise. He's like, you know what? Your new character design ain't bad. Your previous character design was kind of whack anyway. And, they're just having a little bit of small talk. And they're talking about, gotta meet up with Ui so then they can do whatever. And Maki's kind of like, I don't know if I necessarily trust them. Like, they always scheming. And Noritoshi's kind of like, well, they would just say it as diversifying risk and making upfront investments, which their business, it seems like Mei and Ui are kind of like business people or whatever. So it kind of makes sense for it to be described as that. And Maki's kind of just like, I have no clue what you're talking about. But then as I'm having this conversation, they suddenly feel pressure, right? This is a moment where the bleach music starts playing. Like, I'm not going to try to make the sound because I can't. But maybe I might put in the music here a little bit. Anyway, so we got the spiritual pressure going on. And we have a Kogane talking to somebody. It's basically like, oh, you're entering the cutting games. It's a death match. Are you sure you want to enter? And then we have this weird looking thing. And so at first I was like, oh, maybe it's like a mask for some dude. And it says, shut up to the Kogane. And it says, or I'll kill you. And then, Kogane is like, oh, shoot. And we see this weird worm looking thing. And I'm guessing that's the thing that kind of was releasing all that cursed energy that kind of like made both of them kind of be like, whoa, what's going on here? And so that's the end of the chapter. A weird cursed spirit shows up. I can only assume it's a special grade. I mean, if they're considered that they're, or I know Kamo was grade 1 or a semi-grade 1. I know for a fact Maki is probably a special grade at this point. All right, she killed the whole Zenin clan, so she's probably a special grade. So with that being said, that had the cursed spirit, if it's making them both be like, oh, gotta be a special grade. And that's pretty much it for the chapter, really. In regards to the rest of the chapter, I mean, there's not too much crazy to discuss. It seems like Kashimo is going to be working for us now, which seems to go in line with everything else that's happened throughout this section of the Kali games, where each person who fights with their people, they get the person that they're fighting with to join their side. Yuji and Higuruma. We have Megami and that other guy, Takako. I don't remember his name, but the comedian guy, him. And I think the reverse curse technique guy also joined, or at least he left, so he might join later. But much of either way. Point is, a lot of people are joining, so we have Kashimo joining up too, which is interesting. We have a lot of really strong competitors here joining up with the main squad, preparing to fight somebody, but we don't know who. The assumption here, at least the theory that's been going around, is that, oh, Sukuna's going to be the big bad here, and everybody's joining up to fight Sukuna at the end, which is possible, but we also got Kenjaku, and we don't know if there's anybody else who's involved here in this entire plan and everything. So for right now, we just got a lot of strong players going on. And once the communication between barriers goes down, gets put up, things can get real spicy. In regards to Panda, it seems like I guess he has some form of reverse curse technique, kind of, which is why he was able to heal. Otherwise, I have no clue what just happened. But I assume at some point he's gonna come back to his full form. Will he be able to fight and tussle with everybody, like Kashimo / Ryu / can't remember that girl's Uro level characters? I don't know. Maybe because he lost his previous cores and it makes the main core stronger. I don't know. But for right now, Panda is probably not in play too much. Hakari needs a healer. We have Charles on the team. I mean, currently our side's looking pretty stacked. Maki's going crazy. Kamo, I mean, we haven't seen him actually do anything yet, but I assume he's pretty good. I mean, he was previously pretty solid anyway. So yeah, that's kind of it for the chapter. Can't wait. Hopefully the next chapter gives us a little bit of elaboration on this cursed spirit. Hopefully we see Maki one-shot it, because that'd be pretty hype. Maybe see Kamo do some pretty cool stuff too. And yeah, with that all being said, leave a like on the video if you like the video. Leave a dislike if you dislike it. Comment, what do you think is going on with this cursed spirit? What grade level do you think it is? How strong do you think Maki is? How strong do you think Kamo is? Who do you think is going to fix Hakari's arm? What do you think is the next rule that's going to be added? A lot of questions to be had here, so leave your thoughts in the comments. Lastly, if you like the videos and you would like to see more of these kinds of videos / videos on other manga that are coming out, feel free to subscribe, ring that bell even, click that little bell button or whatever. And with that all being said, the doc is out. Peace.